What's up, everyone? Sorry we're late. I was waiting for my guest to arrive. I was ready. I'm Grant Cohn. I got Leo Luna, Maverick, Pallack, and Tony Farmer here today. We have like 13 or 14 topics that we can go over. A lot of topics, but we have a new format that I just thought of 5 minutes ago because a lot of you guys really can't behave yourself in the chat section. Things get a little crazy by the end, and we're trying to engage you. So here's the thing. We have topic we can talk about, but if you have a question, you have a topic you want us to discuss, feel free to throw it out there, and we'll get to it when we're done talking about what we're done. When we're done talking about whatever topic we're on that time. So if it's good, let us know. We'll check it out, and we'll talk about it. We have stuff on the docket already in case you guys have, brain cramps or something like that. First question. What is the 49ers' biggest vulnerability the rest of the season? Tony, why don't you kick this one off?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think the interior offensive line is the most obvious one. I'm hoping we get Garland back, and then that settles the interior offensive line down a little bit. But I'm starting to get a little bit concerned about cornerback depth. We've got some good starters at cornerback. We've got 3 cornerbacks who I love, actually. But if any of those guys go down, do you trust Akello Witherspoon on the field? And then who's after Akello? I mean, we just put 2 guys on IR who were, at the bottom of that depth chart. So our depth is really depleted there, and I'm concerned.
I'd say going along that with injuries, I'd say the biggest vulnerability is if either Deebo Samuel or one of the 2 running backs go down. I think that takes away all dynamic aspects of this offense. They need those guys to be healthy. And that might mean that if they're up 15 at any point at the rest of the season in the fourth quarter, that means yank them out because you gotta protect your assets, but you can't really play scared. They got to keep Deebo on the field.
Yeah, first off, I love what Tony said there about the cornerback position because Jason Verrett is a guy who had a comeback player of the year, so he has a history of injury. Sherman hasn't necessarily stayed healthy for 16 games since 2015, 14. It's been quite a while that he's played a full 16 seasons or game. So I'll knock on wood first on that. But to answer the question, I'm going to say it's setbacks. Shanahan said that he is hopeful for Jimmy Garoppolo and George Kittle to both come back for the final 2 games. And I think those final 2 games are going to determine the season, whatever they do here, say 2-1. They don't have to go 3-0 these next 3 games. But once they play Arizona and Seattle, those games are going to be huge. So as long as there's no more setbacks, even with Deebo's hamstring, that could be considered a setback if he's not able to go for the game.
Okay. Niners' biggest vulnerability. Look, it's 2 things. It's the offensive line. It's terrible, guys. It's really bad. And I've been having fun all day making videos of the Niners' offensive line, setting it to music and putting it in slow motion. And it makes me laugh. Sometimes I use like really sad classical music, or sometimes I'll use like upbeat kind of 1950s like surfer rockabilly. But no matter what music you put behind it, it's embarrassing. Like it's not just bad offensive line play. It's freaking embarrassing. You look at Mike McGlinchey, not only is he underweight, but he keeps his hands like at his knees. And I don't know, maybe Trent Williams can do that because Trent Williams is really athletic. But for Mike McGlinchey, it show ain't working because he can't get the punch in first. His hands are low. He's late to the punch. He can't even get fingers on guys. So whoever told him to do that should probably like stop or get fired. The Niners offensive line is so bad, it almost questioned the offensive line coach because it's like everyone except for Trent Williams. And I get the feeling that Trent Williams can do whatever technique he wants and be good. Like he can be super lazy and still be good. The rest of them can't. And they're off. So there's that. The other thing is Kyle. Kyle's great, but Kyle isn't always at his best. And what he's doing right now makes sense. He's trying to win with his defense and hide Nick Mullins as much as possible. It makes sense. And you've seen the plays are coming in late. They're getting some delay of games. Have you guys noticed that? It wasn't there with Jimmy. And I think what Kyle's doing is purposely putting in the plays in late so they try to win the time of possession. But that doesn't really help the offensive line. It doesn't help Nick Mullins. Defenses are kind of teeing off. They can time the snap count. There's no deception there. If you know Nick Mullins, he ran no-huddle in college. It's what he did. He's really smart. It's why he's in the league. He's not in the league because of his arm or his legs. It's because of his brain. He has experience running no-huddle. He did it in Seattle, which was his best outing by far. I'd like to see Kyle be a little less conservative. Maybe pick his spots. I know you don't want to go 3 and out in 30 seconds, but maybe when you get that first down of the drive, no huddle, hurry up. I mean, put some faith in Nick Mullins because I think that's the best way to get something up. That was a really long answer. Sorry, guys. Did you guys disagree? I don't know. Is it too aggressive to go with Nick Mullins that way?
I'm with you.
Okay.
Well, too aggressive to go no huddle?
Yeah, I mean, I know you don't want to go Chip Kelly no huddle. You don't want any 30-second 3 and outs. But there seemed like you should be able to pick your spots and not just at the end of the first half, at the end of the game.
Yeah, I think it's too aggressive in a way to where Seattle's defense is very vulnerable and they're not that good. So once you did get no huddle with the guy who could throw more vertical or is more willing to throw more vertical, that's where he was able to find it. It was at the end of the game to where he was having success. But I wouldn't be too happy with that game plan because now if he does go 3 and out, that 3 and out is a whole lot quicker and your defense is only getting 30 seconds of rest. And it is, although they're playing at a top 10 defense, it is a depleted defense. So I think that would be something to consider.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do like it to a degree when you have Wilson and Mostert as close to full strength as possible. And then also having Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, because you have running backs that you can cycle in and out and kind of keep full strength. But if it was just one of those guys, or if it's just McKinnon back there, then they can't go no huddle essentially because they're too weak at their speed positions. But right now, I'm all for going no huddle to a degree.
Well, you're an Oregon Duck, of course you are. But what I like about going Tony, you go ahead. Tony.
Yeah, so I hadn't thought about this much before today, but now that you bring this up, Grant, how is the entire 49ers offense built? It's built with these hybrid players. You know, you've got a guy like Dwelly who can play fullback. You got a guy like Deebo, who everybody says is also a running back. You've got all these interchangeable guys.
Ayuk the same way, yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. So when you get a mismatch, when you've got guys in the huddle and then you've got the defense who maybe, I wish I had an extra linebacker or I wish I had an extra defensive back, you think they might take advantage of that and start running no huddle at that point when they've got the mismatch they like, either force a timeout or just run it down their throats or throw it down their throats. And yeah, why aren't we seeing that? That's a good point. That's
what I like about the no huddle. You prevent the defense from substituting. And to Leo's point, I don't think you necessarily need to go hurry up. Well, the cool thing about no huddle is you can get to the line, hurry to the line, and then slow down. That's what Peyton Manning would do all the time. Hurry, get to the line. Okay, slow down. Let me see what the defense is doing. Let's go in motion. I have 30 seconds to just chill at the offensive line. I can work my cadence. I can do a double, I can do a hard count, things like that. I can keep the defense off balance. We can go fast and make them tired. We can go slow, all kind of stuff. And the thing is, you can only do that with a brilliant quarterback. And Peyton Manning was brilliant. Nick Mullins is brilliant. Now, he's not Peyton Manning because he doesn't have the reps and the experience, but he did this in college. He does have the experience in the system and the brain power and IQ to pull this off and actually direct traffic at the line of scrimmage. I think it'd be cool to see. Now, what they did against the Rams worked. They won, but it's something that they can go to because that offense was struggling at times.
Yeah, so now that you brought it up, slowing down out of the no huddle, I would be all for that. But when I heard Chip Kelly, I was thinking, God, no, don't do that type of no huddle.
But you see what I'm saying, right? The way Peyton used to do it.
Yeah, slow it down from the no huddle. Yeah. And if they try to substitute some guy late, then go ahead and take advantage of that free play. Yeah.
So Kyle, you owe us a nickel for that. That's a really good suggestion. And it originally came from Larry Mullins, who's in the chat right now going off because it was
Nick would have 500 passing yards a game.
Hey, it's how he became the man at Southern Miss. So it's something to know. It's something to know about Nick Mullins. All right, let's move on. Big picture, who is the most improved 49er this season?
Most improved. I would say most improved would probably be Kevin Givens, just because he's getting an opportunity to play. So essentially this would be his rookie year, and he's playing at a high level for what would be a rookie season as far as snap counts goes. So most improved, going from a practice squad guy to being a viable starter on this team to where he makes DJ Jones expendable. We'll call it what it is. So I would say that's most improved because it's never easy. Yeah, you're always fighting when you're an undrafted free agent, but the level that he's playing as an undrafted free agent in a short amount of reps that he was given on game days, especially with no preseason this year, I'm going to go ahead and give it with Kevin Givens.
I was going to go Givens, but I'll go with my backup option, which is a little under the radar, Richie James, just being a part of the offense. I think that's improved because preseason I thought he was going to get cut once he was healthy. I did not think he was going to make the team, but now I think he's a top 4 receiver on this team, and there is a spot for him in the offense, and that's something we didn't see his previous couple seasons. That, and of course, Fred Warner is definitely improved. He's now considered one of the best in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, Richie James, isn't it interesting now seeing him outsnap Kendrick Bourne? I think a lot of that has to do with Richie James is under contract next season and Kendrick Bourne's not.
Good point. I was going to say us saying that they should do that, but that's probably the right answer. So good point. Yeah.
I think this is a tough question because when you say most improved, was someone improved from last year because they weren't getting opportunities, or were they really good last year and didn't get opportunities? But with that in mind, I'd like to say Jeff Wilson, man. The way he has run the ball when he's been healthy, I know he hasn't been healthy all year, but when he's been healthy, he looks like a monster. I would love to see that guy healthy for a full 16 games. I don't think he's a featured, every down back, but man, he looks great on tape.
Really good. Those are really good answers. To me, Richie James Jr. and Jeff Wilson Jr. fall in the category of guys who were always good and weren't getting the opportunities. But I could be wrong. I mean, there's no way to really know. And you guys have basically named everyone. Fred Warner for sure. I'm not going to say Jason Verrett because that's just kind of health. I'm going to say, you guys are going to laugh at me. I'm going to say Ross Dwelly. And here's why. Let me explain. He hasn't caught a bunch of passes. He's not having a huge season, but I think he has improved dramatically as a blocker. And I saw it a lot in this last game against the Rams. I put together a little clip today of like 9 blocks he had. There was the famous one at the end of the game against Donald, but he had a couple others against Donald. He really, really blocked well. He sells out. He throws his body around. He didn't used to be like that. I mean, he was undrafted because of his blocking. And now he's a better blocker than Jordan Reed, Charlie Werner, everyone on the team except for George Kittle, who's hurt. He's now their blocking tight end. So that's amazing that a guy could go from basically being a glorified wide receiver to a guy who knocked Aaron Donald on his ass. So good for Ross Dwelly.
Yeah. Cool. And real quick, I wanted to touch one last thing on Kevin Givens. Is the 49ers had to bring back Earl Mitchell last season and play him in the Super Bowl because they didn't think Kevin Givens was ready to take on that role.
Interesting. All right, let's do the other side of it. Who is the most regressed 49er this season? Who regressed more than anyone else? Is this obvious?
I think I'll take the low-hanging fruit and say Mike McGlinchey. I know he's someone that we've all been beating up on a little bit. And it's particularly in pass blocking. I do want to say this. Mike McGlinchey has been above average, in my opinion, as a run blocker this year. And even though he's undersized, pass blocking regression has been eye-popping and very concerning from him.
You can't say Mike McGlinchey. Everyone has to say someone different.
I'm saying someone different. This is a player that I wanted to lock up to an extension before the season. When Grant was begging for Jamal Adams, I wanted to lock up Jaquiski Tart.
You're right.
I really wanted them to re-sign Tart, and I still think he's a talented player, and I think he's going to be a good player for another team next year. I just think he didn't have the season that Eric Armstead and Jimmy Ward did in their contract years that Tart probably would have liked to have this year.
So I would like to say Dante Pettis, but I think a lot of that comes that his quarterback doesn't like him and his head coach doesn't like him as well.
He's a New York Giant too. I mean,
and he's a New York Giant as well. So I'm going to go with DJ Jones. It's weird because I just said Kevin Givens, but DJ Jones because he's someone like what Mav said with Tart. DJ Jones is someone I said was the 49ers just sign him now before he gets expensive after the end of the season. But looking how the season has played out, DJ Jones still probably set to make $5 million with another team. I don't think 49ers match that. But he's not doing really anything special. He showed us flashes last season where we're like, oh my God, he's a monster. And then once he got hurt and he was out for the rest of the season, we were just like, oh man, it sucks. We don't have DJ Jones no more. DJ Jones missed last game because he was on the COVID list. And did any of us say, man, we wish DJ Jones was on the field? I don't think we did.
I thought Darren Daniels looked good.
He did. He did.
So I'm going to say DJ Jones not taking that step. Yes, it's tough after injury. I'll give him that slack. But the fact you didn't take that step, DJ Jones.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I'm changing my answer since I can't use McGlinchey. I'm going to go with Armstead.
Okay.
10 sacks last year. Let's compare Solomon Thomas's season last year to Eric Armstead's season this year.
Oh, no, you didn't. Oh, no, you didn't. Okay.
I mean, sack-wise, they're comparable.
Yeah, they are. Hold on. Let me get the numbers. Okay, talk amongst yourself.
Let's pull that up because Solomon gets all this gruff, and everybody says, people are hard on Solomon because he was drafted early. So was Armstead, and he just got paid. So if you're going to crush Solomon, you need to be crushing Armstead right now.
Armstead has 1.5 sacks. Solomon had 2 last year. 2.
What about
Armstead is on a lot bigger contract this year.
Honestly, Armstead and Solomon Thomas have the exact same football card except for 2019 for Eric Armstead. That's basically the difference. I mean, Armstead's a better player. If you watch the tape, you can see the impact, but still, in terms of raw numbers, same career except for 1 season. That's a really good point. I was going to put him there.
I think the narrative with Armstead is he's getting paid as someone who should be rushing the passer. He's been outstanding as far as like a run defender. He's been great. He was really good last game against the Rams, but that's not what his pay scale says. His pay scale says you should be getting 10 sacks every season. And I think that's why we're critical, because if the 49ers paid him that pay scale, that means they thought the same thing and they're not getting that production.
It's the same reason we've been harping on Jimmy Ward. And it's the same reason and that's why the last game for him was so big, because he finally made the impact that he needs to make to justify the contract. And, if he continues to play like that, then he'll be the winner of the most improved 49er this season. He needs to do it for more than 1 game, but he's now in the running because this award hasn't been given out officially yet. It'll be official when we give out the trophies at the end of the season. We have trophies. All right.
I'll add this too on Armstead. I believe he's 6'7". If he's 6'7", he should be knocking down more passes too. I'd like to see him batting more balls down to the line of scrimmage. Okay,
my turn. I'm going to say a couple of guys. One guy real quick, Laken Tomlinson. Everyone always gives him a lot of credit. I think he won the Niners McKittrick Award last year for the best offense. I think he did. He's not good either. He's just as bad as everyone else except for Trent Williams. He kind of goes under the radar. Laken Tomlinson, not good. And he's getting a lot of money. And then finally, maybe it's not fair, Jimmy Garoppolo. I know we got hurt. I know he hasn't been healthy, but he was healthy week 1. And there were expectations that he was going to take that year 2 leap like Matt Ryan. And that did not happen. I mean, not even close. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Who knows what the reasons are? But the expectations were here. He came in like way underneath them. Some of it's his fault. Some of it isn't. James Garoppolo the first. Biggest regression.
The one thing on Laken Tomlinson, at least, I think it's a big issue that, it's been a revolving door around him, at least. I'd like to see, and left tackle having Trent Williams slow to start the season and then missing that 1 game. I would like to see what he does next season if they bring Trent Williams back in a full season with him and then more of a consistent answer at center. But he probably was the best, maybe the second best offensive lineman on the team last year. And this year, he by default is the second best offensive lineman, but it's not like he's winning that award, like you said.
Tony, Kevin Wang wants a health tip. I think he needs an enema. How about that?
Drink water first thing in the morning, especially if you're a coffee drinker. There's my health tip.
There you go, Kevin. Straight from Tony. There you go. And try an enema. It couldn't hurt. That's all right. Anyway, if the 49ers could add any former 49er to this roster who's still in the league, regardless of money, salary cap, not an issue, who should they pick?
I almost feel like there's one guy who should be off limits. I think DeForest Buckner is the obvious answer, right?
Sure.
Even though he's not been departed.
Well, the defense is pretty good. Maybe they need offense. Who knows?
I would have to go with Buckner. I think another intriguing high-profile name is Alex Smith, especially with Garoppolo out. But, I mean, it'd be nice to have that leadership. Mullins is playing okay. It'd be nice to have that leadership. Under the radar, though, how about our old guard, Mike Iupati, for Seattle? I know he's hurt often, and I don't think he's playing at as high of a level as he was in his prime with the 49ers. But because we've been talking about our interior line depth, I can't think of another better interior offensive lineman that's a former Niner in the league right now, but maybe I'm missing someone.
I was debating on between Daniel Kilgore, who I know has been on and off on the field with the Chiefs this season, but I don't know if he's necessarily that much of an upgrade over Brunskill. But my answer was DJ Reed, just because one, you would hurt the Seahawks. They've been forced to play him outside this season, which, again, preseason, I thought DJ Reed was a question mark to make the team. They cut him. And that backfired a little. And now he's playing with the Seahawks. He's been burned a couple times, but he's playing outside, playing inside for him, and helping their defense not be the worst anymore.
I like that DJ Reed answer because he has looked pretty good, and he's shown a little something on punt return. But someone said in the comments, and they're spot on, Alden Smith. The way this pass rush has been hurt with Nick Bosa out, D Ford out, Alden Smith could have imagine Alden Smith being paired with Kerry Hyder, and then you're able to throw Eric Armstead in the best position he's at, which is inside, not rushing from outside. And then you have Kinlaw as well as inside, or Kevin Givens. Well, who you want to use between those three. Alden Smith could definitely bring that flexibility. He would have made this team a lot better at getting to the quarterback. I don't know if you want him down in the Bay Area anymore, considering what he went through. But he's definitely someone that could have made this team a whole lot better on defense, even though they're still top 10, surprisingly.
Okay. It's amazing how Leo said that whole answer without moving his mouth or lips. That was cool. I like that. That was good.
I'm moving here.
Oh, you're back. You're back. All right. I got a name, and I don't know if this is the right name. I mean, the answer is Buckner, I guess, but let's not go there. And you guys were smart. I mean, looking at offensive line, I have a name, and I'm glad you guys didn't think of it. Maybe it crossed your brain, your synapses. And this guy's a controversial name, but when he's healthy, and he's been out because of COVID complications, I believe. But when he's healthy, he's really good, and he's always better than Mike McGlinchey. Trent Brown.
Brown. Good one. Good one.
And he's only played 2 games this year, and I don't know what his deal is because I don't follow the Raiders, but I'm looking here. It says that he was activated off the COVID-19 list. He had complications. He's not expected to play this Sunday, but he's coming back. He is better than Mike McGlinchey. Trent Brown.
So I'm not going to say who told me this, but it was someone well connected to the situation. I was pissed off when they took Mike McGlinchey and traded Trent Brown. I was like, what? Because I believe they traded him for like a 7th round pick. It was something real sorry for someone his skill level. And they told me Trent Brown, they got rid of him because he had 0 work ethic. It was a guy who just did not want to work, and he was just natural, God gifted. So
there's probably something to that.
They did whatever to get him out. I'm not going to say who, but it's someone really, really close to that situation.
I'm sure they're right. I'm sure that's the case. And I'm sure Mike McGlinchey is a real hard worker, but Trent Brown's better than him. Sorry.
Oh, facts, 100%.
Yeah,
but at least new regime, they were trying to instill something into that locker room.
I hear it. Here's the thing. Here's what they instilled. The replacement, Mike McGlinchey, real quick before we move on. He bugs me so much. And every time I watch his tape of him missing blocks and stuff, I see something new. So the clip of Colton McKivitz missing the block on Donald, and then this was a couple of days ago, and then McGlinchey basically like jumping on his back, Donald forcing the fumble. He'll be back in a second. Donald forcing the fumble. Sorry about that. Let me get that.
Yeah.
Okay. Donald forces the fumble. Rams recover, score a touchdown. No. Hold on. It was another one. It's another one. So McGlinchey gives up a sack. Mullins is on the ground. McGlinchey is the only one who gave up a sack. He got beat. A lot of times when you see offensive linemen give up a sack, he like goes over to the quarterback and helps him up, right? Like, hey, teammates, my bad. Just stands there with his hands on his hips and looks at like the scoreboard, like you're on your own, Nick. Like, hey, thanks, Captain. What is that? I'm gonna show that later, man. I don't get that.
One I saw in the comments, Jason Mears said Mike Davis, and he's been pretty good for the Panthers out of the backfield. And I thought that was a good one that I didn't even think of at the time.
Yeah, not to mention Matt Breida, Savon Ahmed, any number of running backs pretty much who are better than Jerick McKinnon. Okay, moving on. Best draft pick of the Shannon Lynch era.
I can start off. I mean, I feel like Kittle is going to be everyone's first choice, but I think that Tarvarius Moore was a good one. And then also Fred Warner. And if you can, are we counting undrafted free agents in this section or free agents?
Well, undrafted free agents aren't picks. So I would have to say those are signings.
Okay.
Those are signings.
So then I'd go Kittle and Warner are 1 and 2.
Sure. Okay. All right. Well, you got to explain why. I mean, a lot of people are going to argue with you on that. Kittle, Fred Warner, are you kidding?
Yeah,
How can you justify that?
Warner's pretty good. That's all I'll say.
Okay, fair enough.
Nick Bosa. I'm still going to say, even though the 49ers lost, he was the best player on that field during the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes was okay. Threw 2 interceptions, wasn't his normal game. Nick Bosa was a problem that entire game. And if no one believes me, ask Eric Armstead. There's a reason he has a lot of zeros in his bank account, and I think that has to do with Nick Bosa.
Good point. I think Kittle is you got to go with Kittle just because it's a later draft pick. Kittle and Warner are probably, I don't know, have maybe had an equal impact on the Niners, but because Kittle was the 5th round and Warner was in the 3rd round, I'll go with Kittle there. I think there's a good argument to be made for Bosa. I just think it was a little bit more of an obvious selection. But whenever you pick a guy like Kittle in the 5th round, I think it's a fair question to ask, why didn't you get a guy like that in the 4th round or the 3rd round? I think that's a fair question too. But
I like that.
Someone said Reuben Foster.
No, of course. The thing about Kittle is that we don't know what, I mean, we're at this point, he's their best pick, but there's going to be another 10 years and there's the future, and we don't know what he's going to be like in the future. And if I had to project, I'm sorry to be negative, but I think his best years are probably behind him. He plays a very physical brand of football, and his body started to break down this year. I think when it's all said and done, when these guys are all retired in 20 years from now, it's very possible that Deebo Samuel will be the one who has the best career of these guys. He could end up with the most touchdowns, the most yards, the best career. I mean, Fred Warner's excellent player, plays a high contact position. Same with George Kittle. They may not last as long. Deebo may have some longevity, although his style of play is pretty high contact, and he's had injury issues too. I'd say Deebo's in the running, and he may pull away from them down the line, but he's still getting started.
Mm-hmm. Hold up, Grant. That was a big statement there, man. I haven't heard that from many other people saying that Kittle's best days might be behind him. Is that based off of how he's going to recover from this injury, or what you've seen on tape prior to the injury?
I don't know. It just seemed to me that this was inevitable. I guess it's just my bias, my assumptions, that the way he plays, given what happened to Gronkowski, that these things were going to start happening eventually. And now that it's happened once, twice, I don't know. I guess that would be the expectation, but who knows how he could play 16 games next year. Who knows? It'd be great. I don't know. What do you think, Tony? Make a really irresponsible prediction right now.
I think just because he's so young, if he was 32, I would agree with you right away. But I think because he's a little bit younger, how old is Kittle? Oh, you're looking at me. How old is Kittle?
How old is Kittle? Tell me. No.
I was gonna say 27.
He's 27.
He's 20. Okay, yeah. So I mean, he's still young enough where I think he can bounce back from these injuries. And that guy is so full of passion that I mean, I think it's unfair for any of us to say, oh, this guy's going to be good in rehab. This guy's going to, Kittle is working his butt off right now, and in any rehab he has ever done and ever will in the future. So that just gives me a little more confidence that I think he's still got a lot more years left in him.
Worst pick of the Shannon Lynch era.
I'll jump on that one. I think it is, and there's a lot to compete with here, but I think hands down Joe Williams, because one, he never saw snaps. He was a 4th round pick. And remember, Shanahan had to talk Lynch into it. So, and there were red flags, kind of like Reuben Foster. There were red flags with him as well. I wonder if Lynch and Shanahan ever get like into arguments and spats, if Lynch ever pulls out the Joe Williams card and is like, hey,
I
man,
guarantee it. I freaking guarantee it.
Is this like the Joe Williams situation again, Kyle? Because Kyle talked him into that one.
I'm sure Kyle has a bunch of things he could throw right back at him, though. You know what I mean?
Right.
Anyway,
true.
Yep. Leo.
So, I'm teetering between Dante Pettis, CJ Beathard. I think they ruined both of their confidence.
Yeah.
Because CJ Beathard was the tackling dummy. But screw it. I'm going to go Dante Pettis because he was a second-round draft pick. He was a higher pick than CJ Beathard, and they also traded up for him, gave up some draft capital. And while he looked the part his rookie year, it just seems he doesn't have that work ethic, that he's just a guy that's going through the motions. Hey, look at my routes, look at my TikToks, but just don't send me through the middle. That's not what I want. Hey, I don't mind being a not dressing for the games. So I'm going to go Dante Pettis just because he looked like the part, and then to just go downhill from there. He has 0 receptions in his third year.
My argument against Pettis is I think he has more game-winning touchdowns than any wide receiver the Niners have drafted this decade besides Crabtree. So
is that your Pac-12 argument?
Yeah, that's my Pac-12 argument exactly. I mean, he obviously did not live up to his draft standing, but I would say more so Joe Williams and then Reuben Foster. I was looking at what they traded for Reuben Foster. Of course, they traded up to that pick to get him and get that 5th year on his contract. And then he didn't even make it to the 5th year. But Seattle originally traded up to that spot, and they got Lano Hill and Chris Carson when they traded into that spot. And those are 2 big parts of their team. And then, obviously, I mean, Foster didn't make it through, and now he's with Washington, not really playing either, but still.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys basically nailed them. I got some more names to list.
Go.
I got the big one I'm saving for the end, but real quick, I mean, Reuben Foster, they took him ahead of Ryan Ramczyk and Budda Baker and Dalvin Cook. And I mean, geez. So that's and Joe Mixon. So that hurts. That hurts. And then Mike McGlinchey, they took him ahead of Minkah Fitzpatrick and Tremaine Edmonds and Derwin James and Jair Alexander. So that also hurts. I mean, those are 2 really bad picks. They also took him ahead of Lamar Jackson, who they didn't realize they might have needed. But then the worst, I mean, we feel for him, but Solomon Thomas. They could have had Deshaun Watson. They could have had Patrick Mahomes. Instead, they took Solomon Thomas and lost the Super Bowl to Patrick Mahomes. They would have won the Super Bowl had they just not taken Solomon Thomas. It's all his fault that they lost the Super Bowl. Really, we don't give him enough. It's all his fault. You know, you can blame Kyle Shanahan for getting too cute or Jimmy Garoppolo for missing some reads, but we got to blame Solomon Thomas for not being Patrick Mahomes ultimately. It's his fault.
Yeah.
Dude, be someone else. Yeah. All right.
You need to put these guys on timeout.
Who's acting up?
Bryce.
Who's acting up?
I ain't a snitch, but I ain't gonna name names.
Oh,
Bryce.
You guys are. I'm watching you. All right. Best signing of the Shannon Lynch era.
I'm gonna go with their very first one, Quan Williams. I mean, it's not the household name, but man, has he been solid for the 49ers in the slot. I think the slot cornerback position is one of the more like unheralded positions in the NFL. Like it's really, really hard to play. You have to have a very specific skill set to pull it off. And he does it really well, doesn't get the recognition. And who was Quan Williams before the 49ers signed him? Not someone, I mean, he had a little bit of playing experience, but not someone who's playing at the caliber he is now. That was a great signing.
Richard Sherman. What he does, he's a coach on the field. He was an all-pro. He was a Pro Bowler just last season, as well as, they took a chance on him. It was basically San Francisco or Detroit. I don't think that market was there for Sherman that we all would have expected, seeing what he's done in his career in Seattle. He was coming off an Achilles injury, and they still, even though he gets some slack for what he negotiated in his contract, it's still pretty good contract to where he's getting paid pretty well. I think he was top 5 corner last season being paid, and I think he's up there this year as well. So I'm going to say Richard Sherman just because of what he was coming off, and it was basically a 2-team market.
I'm going to stick with the same position and go with Jason Verrett or Emmanuel Mosley, because we deemed Mosley undrafted free agent, counts in this category. And I think without Mosley last year, the 49ers might not even make the Super Bowl, because Mosley was huge. And otherwise it would have been Ahkello Witherspoon getting burned by Stephon Diggs 20 more times in that game. And I think Mosley is a big part. And if they bring him back, he's the young corner that they can build around if they don't end up drafting one. I know Grant wants them to draft one, but who knows if they do. Mosley's the young guy on the team.
Yeah, Mosley, good signing. Jason Verrett, good signing. Although Verrett still needs to string together more games, but that was a real futures bet. They put like a penny down and got like a big jackpot. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I don't gamble, but I'm trying to use the right terminology. Anyway, I think the answer for me is Kyle Juszczyk. I mean, they don't use him enough, but when they do use him, he comes through. He won the game on the 4th and 1. He had the big catch down the sideline. He gives them their identity. Kyle Shanahan wants to have that old school fullback, two-back look, and he gives it to him. They could do more with him, but Kyle Juszczyk was also one of their first sign. I think it might have been their first signing for their offense. I don't know, but he was that important. He was foundational the way that K'Wan Williams was. That's a good answer too. So that's my guy, Kyle Juszczyk. What's the worst signing of the Shannon Lynch era?
The worst I have is either Pierre Garçon, I think didn't work out to the fullest of what they wanted. And then I have Malcolm Smith. I think that contract was a big one to bring in guys on the defense. They needed to attract bigger names. He was a Super Bowl MVP, but I don't think anyone thought he was a defense or a difference maker on defense. And especially after Reuben Foster got in his injury problems and trouble, then the linebacker, I mean, we had Brock Coyle. We had to watch Brock Coyle play defense for a while, and that wasn't always the best.
I remember him. That was awful. Okay. Leo.
I'm going to say D Ford was a terrible signing just because of what he's making per year. And even last year, what was he doing? Like 20 max snaps per game. Hey, we're going to pay you all this money, but we're going to give you special treatment. No real practicing during the week. And you only have to play 20 snaps. Just get to the quarterback, though. Just get to the quarterback, and we'll only give you 20 snaps. And then he's not playing a lick this year. And even though he's not playing at all this year, it's, hey, let's renegotiate your contract and give you some more guaranteed money right now at this signing. Let's go ahead and do it. So the fact that they had to, just to try to get off his contract and create more cap space, they just gave him another bag, 2 bags, basically.
Those are 2 good ones. I think it's tough to beat Malcolm Smith. I mean, if you look at I wish I had the math in front of me, the how much money did we pay Malcolm Smith per snap? I think that is going to make some people's stomachs turn. So, yeah, that's all I got to say about that one. That one's brutal.
Mm-hmm. I will
keep talking. I'll get those numbers.
I'm calling foul on Leo, though, because D Ford was a trade, was he not? So that wouldn't have been a free agent signing.
But they
re-signed him.
They signed him.
336 snaps for Malcolm Smith.
Oh, look at this on the fly. I love it, Grant.
Hold on. And
now we got to pull up his contract.
Now we got to get how much money he made over the cap. Career earnings. Oh, give it to us. Give it to us. This guy made a lot of money, huh? Hold on. History. This guy with the Niners, he made $12.3 million. That's a lot. D Ford made about $30 million for, I think, roughly the same amount of playing time.
Salary cap was a little bit higher for Ford, though, right?
True.
Salary cap's gone up. But
no question.
Still.
All right, so you guys had some good names. I got some other ones. I mean, how about Eric freaking Armstead? I mean, the only thing worse than drafting Solomon Thomas with the 3rd pick is to basically pay the same guy $17 million a year because of one mirage season. So Eric Armstead, congratulations. You're one of the worst signings of all time. You and your 1.5 sacks, you're the reason that DeForest Buckner isn't here anymore. And you make people miss Solomon Thomas. So Eric Armstead, you're up there. And then Jerick McKinnon. I mean, bad story what happened to his knee, but they gave him about $30 million. I was going to look up how much money they've paid him and what production they've got out of him. I mean, it's brutal. So not just the fact that they gave him the money, but the playing time he took from other people and the money that could have gone to other people. I mean, geez, Jerick McKinnon. But there's a long list. Pierre Garçon, good name. Is there anyone else that we're forgetting? Cohn.
Quan. Yeah, no one mentioned Quan. See, this is the thing I would say with Eric Armstead, although I don't agree with the signing considering you let Buckner go. There's we could do a whole video on that. So I'm not going to get into it. But with Bosa coming back next year and then another year after, I'm just going to say that story's not done yet. It's kind of just chapter 1 into that. With everybody else, like Ford, he's done. Malcolm Smith's done. That's the only reason why I would be hesitant on Eric Armstead.
How about Weston Richburg? He's been hurt almost every season he's been on the team. They gave him a big contract to lead the offensive line, and then injuries obviously aren't his fault, but that's been a costly hit toward the cap not having him.
Good call. I agree. Yeah. Weston Richburg, he's under the radar. You were bad too, Weston. Don't think we forgot about you. Weston, bad. Good call, Maverick. God, it felt good to say that. I don't know.
I want to go back to McKinnon for a second because to some extent, when guys get hurt, it's like, was that luck? Can you really blame the GM, the guy getting hurt? They brought McKinnon in, and then there were talks about him being an every down back.
Yep.
And that misjudgment there on really, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Shanahan or Lynch weren't the ones on the record saying he was going to be an every down back. I don't remember, but those were the whispers. And then you look back and you're like, this guy
paid
can't
him to
even
be
survive.
An every down back. Sorry.
Good point. Yeah, good point. Yeah, and this guy can't even survive a training camp or get through week 1. So how is he going to, get through 16 games?
Yeah.
People forget about with McKinnon when he was on Minnesota. His highlights were obviously when Adrian Peterson would get hurt, but he also had – no one remembers Matt Asiata, who was a great goal line back, and he would really open up the offense because he was a power back. And he was limited, but McKinnon would spell him often. I think Asiata would often get the red zone touches. So McKinnon being an every down back, it was, like Tony said, questionable at the time. I don't know if it was Lynch and Shanahan who said every down back, but it was an interesting signing, to say the least.
Interesting. Yeah, it was horrendous. Okay, let's move on. 3 questions left, all concerning the game this Monday night. What has to happen for the 49ers to pull off this upset? And it's not a bit. What are they, like 1-point dogs? 1.5?
So the line has actually moved to the 49ers are now a 1-point favorite. So it's a huge line swing from them being a 3-point underdog all the way to the 49ers a 1-point favorite now.
Wow. Okay, so what do the Niners have to do to take care of business and win this game?
I'd say that they need to give Mostert, Debo, and Jeff Wilson that combo that needs 50 touches, and that might seem like a lot, but I think Debo needs at least 10 touches, whether it's catches or those runs, and then Mostert, if he's healthy, needs to get 20, and then Jeff Wilson needs to get 15, and I think that's how they win. And that math probably adds up if you fudge the numbers a little bit, but I think those 3 guys need to touch the ball a lot.
So what needs to happen is I think the defense needs to make Buffalo's offense one-dimensional. Take away their ground game because that's how they build off it. They build with play action, shots downfield. The Chargers did a great job with that last week at halftime. The Bills had 50 rushing yards at the half. They were good. The Bills were contained. Second half, the Bills came out and they put up 122 rushing yards in the second half. And that's where the Bills really ran away with the game at that point. So I think if you could just take away the ground game for Buffalo, Allen does not appear to be 100% wearing a knee brace at the end of that game last week. So that has to factor into it as well. So just make them one-dimensional. And I think that'll bode well because Buffalo likes to take shots downfield. And that's not something the 49ers give up unless they have Brian Allen on the field.
We've spent a lot of our 43 minutes talking about how concerning the 49ers offensive line is. The Bills defense is better than people think. That pass rush, they're top 5 in the league and as a team in pass rush win percentage. Oof. And so that's my one thing. They've got to protect Mullins. They've got to keep the pocket clean.
Yeah.
We don't want him to have to make any rush decisions. And I think the obvious answer for any game is like, don't turn the ball over, right? Well, protecting Mullins, I think, is going to help us not turn the ball over.
Yeah, what you said is interesting. They have a very good pass rush. They're vulnerable against the run. Their numbers against the run aren't good. But again, they know what they're facing. They know they're facing a backup quarterback who struggled against the blitz and a run-first team. You know what this defense is going to do. They're going to be very aggressive. Mm-hmm. They're going to put 8 in the box. They're going to blitz the hell out of Nick Mullins. So the Niners have to find a way, like Tony said, to protect them, but also to get the Bills defense on their heels. And that's where I think the no-huddle offense can come into play. They're going to be dialing up some creative blitzes, some with their nickelback, like New Orleans did, with their middle linebacker, like Seattle did. Put them on their heels, make them go to really vanilla coverages and plays, and let Nick Mullins dictate a little bit. I think that's what they want to do, because if they let 40 seconds go between each play, they're going to see some real exotic looks, and they could get overwhelmed by a very good defensive coordinator, head coach Sean McDermott. So to use it, I'm just going to keep saying the same thing from earlier. No huddle, as if I didn't say it earlier. It's my new idea.
If Shanahan runs the no-huddle, what do we update the odds to that he's actually following Grant extremely closely and taking his advice? I mean, that's
already 100%. I'm only worried. My only question is, did we say this too late in the week? I mean, if we had gotten this in maybe a Tuesday, he could have snuck it in the game plan. But now he's going to go to Nick like tomorrow and be like, hey, man, I know it's not in the game plan, but I had this idea yesterday all by myself, no huddle. We're going to just give it a shot. Hey, Kyle, take the idea. Say it's yours.
I'm getting some popcorn, and I can't wait to be on Twitter if it happens immediately after the game the next day.
He did it. Oh, my God. Okay. All right, other side of the coin. What absolutely cannot happen in this game if the Niners are going to pull it off? The win.
I'd say they've got to stay healthy. I think they're the better team. I mean, when I look at the matchup, offense versus defense on both sides of the ball, the 49ers are the better team. I think I've got this game handicapped as a 6.5-point favorite for the 49ers. I think they're going to win this game easily. They're capable of it. But they got to reduce the mistakes for sure. And we got to not have injuries. I'll say it again. That cornerback depth is frightening.
Yeah.
It's just run a vertical offense. The blueprint was there when you beat the Rams the first time, when you beat the Patriots the week after, and then you beat the Rams for the second time. Run a horizontal offense. That means Debo, pitch passes, fly sweeps, Mostert, Jeff Wilson. Just run it that way in a rhythm. Don't try to have Mullins throw downfield too much as far as like, okay, yeah, Ayuk is going to be your read here 20 yards down the field. Like, that cannot happen. Jordan Reed over here is going to run a 15-yard out. I think it's just got to be a horizontal offense. Keep your defense well rested against the offense in Buffalo that likes to run the ball a lot and then take their deep passes. So it's just the blueprint's there last week. Just go ahead and do that. And they're an AFC East team. It's not like they study you too often or they see you pretty often. They see you every 4 years. And the last time they saw you, you did not have Debo. Mostert wasn't your lead guy. You had no IU. So I would go with the horizontal offense.
I'm going with, and this is pretty much goes for every game, but I think especially this game, is they can only have one turnover or less, obviously. I think the defense is good enough to, even if the 49ers turn the ball over on their own 25, inside the 25, they can bear down and hold them to a field goal like they did against New Orleans on a couple of those muff punts. I think the Niners can afford one turnover. If they turn over twice, it's going to be hard to win, and I think it switches to Buffalo as the favorite if there are two turnovers. The defense is really good, and they can stop Josh Allen and that air attack, I feel, but not if Mullins or Mostert or Wilson turn the ball over.
Okay, you guys have good answers. To me, it's all about Josh Allen and the Niners. Even though the Niners defense is better than the Niners offense, they have to contain Josh Allen in the pocket and make him play quarterback. I know his numbers are really good, but the Niners defense is really good. I mean, they have two good corners playing very well right now who are savvy and they're veterans. Basically, the entire back seven is playing well. So if they can just keep Josh Allen in the pocket and make him go through his progressions and throw accurate passes, that should work out more often than not. Robert Saleh compared him to Cam Newton, and I think there are some similarities in how Josh Allen runs. But the way he throws, he's a way better passer than Cam Newton is now. I mean, to me, he's like Carson Wentz. And you can say that Carson Wentz stinks or whatever, but the Carson Wentz that I saw in person against the Niners was one of the best players on the field. The Niners couldn't stop him. They couldn't contain him, and he beat them because he kept leaking out of the pocket and basically turning it into playground football. If they let Josh Allen do that, he's going to beat him that way. He's not necessarily going to run for 60 yards, but he'll escape the pocket, extend the play, and then hit someone downfield who's being chased by Richard Sherman in his 4.7 40-yard dash. So, yeah, I really think as long as the Niners keep him contained in the pocket, they win. If they let him start extending plays, they're in big trouble. Big trouble. Final question. Who is the under-the-radar difference maker going to be in this game against Buffalo?
I don't know if it necessarily is under the radar, but I wrote about for my players to watch, which will come out later, and it's Jerry Hughes, he wasn't good at the start of the season, but he's the Bills' best pass rusher, in my opinion, and maybe not underrated to Bills fans, but to the NFL. Jerry Hughes has been one of my favorite players in the NFL the last 10 years. He's been really good for Buffalo. When he's going, their defense usually goes, and in his last 5 games, 4.5 sacks, 3 TFLs, 8 QB hits, an interception, and 2 fumble recoveries. That's pretty good for a defensive end. And he moves around both sides. And you can bet he's going to be lining up over Mike McGlinchey a few times. He lined up over the right tackle last week against the Chargers. I think that's going to happen a lot this week. So we'll see how McGlinchey fares.
Doesn't it feel like Jerry Hughes has been with the Bills wrecking havoc since like 2001?
Yeah. Since Fred, yeah. Man, who were some of the players on the Bills in like 2007? CJ Spiller, Ryan Fitzpatrick,
JP Lossman,
yeah, Stevie Johnson. Okay, you're right.
Yeah. So under the radar guy for the Bills, I'm gonna say probably Tremaine Edmonds. I do fully expect the 49ers to do some of the same things they did last week. And if so, Edmonds is a guy that can go sideline to sideline. I think he came out running a 4.4 or a 4.5. He is a very fast linebacker. He can have some coverage skills underneath. His eyes can fool him sometimes, but he reminds me a bit of Quan Alexander. And if guys like Quan Alexander is on his game, they could definitely wreak havoc.
I'm going to say I got 2 answers. I can't help myself. Whoever's playing for the 49ers in the slot, I think Cole Beasley in the slot can be a problem. So whether that's Ward coming down playing man-to-man or whether that's Mosley probably more likely in the slot, I think that's going to be an important matchup. But I also throw out, I mean, you could ask me this question every week. I'm going to have the same answer. Jordan Reed. That guy has the ability to take over a game. You saw it the game that he got hurt. He had 2 touchdowns. You know, if you've got 2 wide receivers on the outside who are going to take a lot of attention, that should be time to eat for Jordan Reed in the middle. And quick trivia question for you, by the way. Jordan Reed went to New London High School in Connecticut. That is the oldest high school football rivalry in the country. It goes back to the 1800s. They've been playing on Thanksgiving Day against another high school in the area.
Say that again. What's the number?
They've been going back to the 1800s. I believe it's 1875. Yeah. New London High School and Norwich Free Academy have been playing a high school football game on Thanksgiving Day ever since then, from where Jordan Reed's from.
That's cool. Jordan Reed's a good answer. The way I look at this game is, as I mentioned earlier, the Bills are going to sell out to stop the run. They're going to put Trey White, their best corner, one of the best corners in the league, on Deebo Samuel, and they're going to try to get the Niners to win any other way. So obviously Brandon Ayuk is going to have to step up. That's not really under the radar. But another guy that I think the Niners could go to who could get him some big plays is Richie James Jr. Don't forget about Richie James Jr. You got Kendrick Bourne, Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk. But here's a stat for you. When Nick Mullins targets Richie James Jr. this season, Mullins' quarterback rating is 128.7. That's on 19 targets. That's pretty good. That's pretty decent.
Yeah, so that's really good.
While the Bills, like mediocre to subpar defense, is selling out to stop the 2 most dangerous parts of the Niners offense, their run game and Deebo Samuel, hit him with Richie James Jr. Because when he does catch the ball, it's 20 yards, 40 yards, touchdown, big plays, good things happen. Kyle, don't forget about Richie James Jr. So what? The checklist is no huddle when prudent, when you can get away with it, and a couple of well-timed big plays to Richie James, either down the field or screens. They both work. So you're welcome.
I like
we
it.
Gave it to
I
you.
like it.
I have a question. Just overall, are you sure? Do you think that Trey White will be on Deebo and not go to Ayuk? Because it's kind of hard for Trey White to shut down Deebo just because all the passes behind the line of scrimmage. Obviously, Tre'Davious White's one of the best corners in the NFL, if not the best. But if you put him on Ayuk, then he's more in his element where he can shut down guys beyond the line of scrimmage. But with Debo, he's going to get his no matter what. So you could completely eliminate Ayuk to, like, on paper at least, if you put Trey White on him. I mean, they'll probably still put Trey White on Debo, but
that's a good point. If they can eliminate Ayuk and then take away Debo Samuel by like doubling him or whatever they need to do to tackle him, then Richie James Jr. becomes even more important.
To answer that, I hope they put Tre'Davious White on Debo, because there's a chance that Tre'Davious White could get caught in traffic going across field, and then now you have Debo just going free up the sideline. So I hope that happens. They're an AFC East team, so they could do anything they want. They don't really know the 49ers, at least this version of them especially.
Well, we're out of questions. I think we're out of topics, but real quick, I got to say the highlight of this show was when we started talking about the merits of the no-huddle offense, and Nick Mullins' grandfather in the chat section's like, 500 yards a game. If they did this, Nick would throw for 500 yards a game. You got to love grandparents. I wish my grandparents were still alive. I wish I had a grandparent who had my back like that. 500 yards a freaking game. Let's see it. I'm with them. No huddle. Let's see what he can do. Who's to say he can't? I'm not going to say he can't. Jeez. Larry Mullins, that is definitely the MVP of the show right there. That's great.
Love it.
Tell me another show where the grandfather of the starting quarterback of the team that you cover is in the chat section being like, hey, here's what they got to do.
Well, Larry Mullins is always, if you're up to it, you come on to Tapped In Sports. Sometimes we have Grant on Mondays. We could
Kevin Wang, why'd Kyle remove bootleg offense from Mullins? I think it's a good question. Larry, he's throwing up emojis. There's nothing this grandfather can't do. I love it. But hey, let's stick with the question. Kevin, you guys aren't out yet. We got 5 minutes left in class. You guys can't go. Put your books back. Why did Kyle remove the bootleg offense from Mullins? It's a good question.
I think one problem is, I'd like to see the bootleg more, but if McGlinchey is letting guys get past him so fast, you can't really bootleg if the guy's in Mullins' face before he takes 3 steps to the right or 3 steps to the left, if he's getting past School or Williams. I would like to see the bootleg more, but I think McGlinchey needs to take his play up another level to allow that.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's the bust with the offensive line, the communication there. It seems like everyone hasn't been really on the same page. So if you're having bust happen within your offensive line, that bootleg, instead of being like a 6-yard sack, a bootleg would turn into like a 10, 11-yard sack. So I think that's why he got away from it a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Offensive line woes for sure.
Yeah, Tony has to go. I'm gonna give an 8-minute long answer real quick. No, I'm just playing. No, I do think it's the offensive line. If you notice, you can tell how Kyle Shanahan feels about his offensive line matchup with the defensive line in the first play of the game. If they're in shotgun first play of the game, you could tell he doesn't trust his O-line that day. If they're under center, he thinks that his O-line can compete. So when they're in the shotgun, you can't. I mean, those concepts and plays don't work as much. But so I see Kyle Shanahan's logic there, but Kyle, revisit it, because your quarterback's getting killed either way. You put him in the shotgun, you drop him straight back, he's getting crushed. The nice thing about moving the pocket is at least the pass rushers don't know where the quarterback's going to be, and they can't just tie a blindfold around their head and go to one spot and kill them. If you move the pocket once every 5-6 drop backs, at least you give the pass rusher something to think about, a little hesitation, something to read. It could give him more, time in the pocket on the other plays, because there's something for the defense to think about. Yes, move the pocket, Kyle. That's 3 things we've listed out for you. That's enough. That's a lot on your plate right now. You're going to have to go back and do the game plan over, but you should have time because the game's Monday night. So you're welcome. On behalf of all 49ers, you're welcome. We're here every day. We got the ideas for you. Thanks for watching. Take care, everyone.